They say temptation is loud and reckless, but that's never been true for me because what came into my life didn't crash. Through the door, it didn't announce itself with desire or drama. It arrived quietly, almost politely, like a shadow that slowly learns the shape of your loneliness, and maybe that's why I didn't notice it at first, or maybe I did and just pretended I didn't. Because when you've spent years living beside someone who barely looks at you anymore, who knows your routines but not your thoughts, your body but not your heart, even the smallest attention feels like a miracle. And I was starving for miracles without admitting it to myself. I'm 42, married for 7 years to a man who is kind in public and distant in private. A man who doesn't yell, doesn't cheat, doesn't abuse, just disappears emotionally a little more each year. Like a photograph fading on a wall, you walk past every day without really seeing anymore. We don't fight, we don't laugh much either. We just coexist, sharing space, sharing bills, sharing silence. His phone knows more about his inner world than I do. His eyes light up at notifications, but stay dull when they meet mine. And I kept telling myself this is what adulthood looks like. This is stability. This is marriage after passion dies. But deep down, something in me kept shrinking, kept folding inward, until I felt like a guest in my own life. And then there was Adam, my husband's best friend, the kind of man who had known him since college, the kind who showed up to birthdays, anniversaries, barbecues, the kind who hugged me a little longer than necessary and asked how I was, with real curiosity instead of habit. He started coming over more often when my husband was stressed with work. They'd sit in the living room talking about old memories. Inside jokes I wasn't part of, but Adam always made space for me in the conversation, always looked at me when I spoke, always remembered small things I'd mentioned weeks ago, like the book I was reading or the tea I preferred, things my own husband forgot within minutes. And at first it felt harmless. Just friendliness, just warmth, just someone being kind. But kindness after years of emotional neglect doesn't feel neutral. It feels electric. It feels like oxygen rushing into lungs that forgot how to breathe properly. And I noticed myself waiting for his visits, noticing the sound of his car outside, fixing my hair before stepping into the room, laughing a little louder at his jokes than I did at my husband's. And I hated myself for it because nothing had happened. Nothing inappropriate, nothing physical, but something internal had already crossed the line, something quiet and invisible, like my heart waking up after a long coma. And the worst part was, I didn't feel desire at first. I felt seen, truly seen, like someone finally noticed the version of me that existed beneath the wife, beneath the routine, beneath the role. I'd been performing for years without applause. Adam would ask me how I was really doing and then actually wait for the answer. Not scrolling, not interrupting, just listening. And when you go so long without being heard, even basic attention feels intimate. It feels personal, it feels dangerous. There was one evening that still lives in my head. Like a pause scene from a film, my husband had gone out to pick up food, left me and Adam alone in the kitchen. I was cutting vegetables. He was leaning against the counter, talking about something silly, and then he said my name in that soft way people do when they about to say something honest. And I looked up, knife in my hand, and for a second the world narrowed to just the space between us. His eyes held mine longer than necessary, not in a bold way, not in a sexual way, just in a way that made my chest feel warm and tight at the same time. And neither of us moved, neither of us spoke, and nothing happened, but everything shifted. The air felt thicker, charged, like we'd both felt something and were pretending we hadn't. And that night, I lay in bed next to my husband, listening to his steady breathing while my mind replayed Adam's eyes. His voice, the way he said my name, and I felt guilty, not because I had done something, but because I wanted to, and wanting felt like betrayal already. After that, the moments multiplied, not dramatically, not obviously. Just small accumulations, shared jokes, private glances, conversations that lasted a little longer than they should have. Texts about trivial things that somehow felt important. And I kept telling myself this is harmless, this is just friendship. But my body knew better, even if my mind refused to admit it. I started dressing differently when I knew he'd be around. Not sexy, just softer, more aware of myself. Like I wanted to be noticed without wanting to be wanted, which is a lie we tell ourselves when we're already halfway across the bridge. The night it finally happened wasn't planned, wasn't romantic, wasn't dramatic. It was ordinary, which somehow made it worse. My husband had gone to bed early, exhausted, another long day, another quiet goodnight, and Adam stayed behind to help clean up after dinner. We were in the living room. Lights dimmed the house, quiet in that heavy midnight way, and we sat on opposite ends of the couch, at first talking about life, regrets the way time moves faster than you expect, and then he said something about how lonely I must feel sometimes, and I laughed it off. But my eyes burned because he wasn't wrong, and he reached out, not to touch me, just to place his hand near mine, like offering comfort without demanding it. And I looked at that small distance between our fingers, that tiny space where nothing existed yet, and I realized I was more afraid of staying invisible than I was of crossing the line. So I closed that space myself. My hand moved first, barely brushing his, and he froze, didn't pull away, didn't lean in, just looked at me like he was waiting for permission I shouldn't have given. And I didn't speak, I just stayed there. Stayed in that moment, and eventually his fingers curled around mine, gentle, hesitant, like he was terrified of breaking something fragile. And in that silence, I felt something crack inside me. Not excitement, not passion, but relief. Like after years of emotional drought, someone had finally handed me water. And when he leaned in and kissed me, it wasn't hungry or rushed. It was slow, almost sad, like we both knew this was wrong and needed it anyway. And I kissed him back, not because I wanted his body, but because I wanted to feel real again, wanted to feel chosen, wanted to feel alive instead of decorative. And the moment lasted only seconds before reality slammed back into us. We pulled apart, breathing unevenly, eyes wide, guilt flooding in faster than desire ever had. And I remember thinking this isn't what betrayal looks like in movies. There was no thrill, no victory, just two broken adults standing in a quiet room, holding the weight of what they'd just done. After that, nothing happened again. Not because it didn't want to, but because the cost suddenly became visible. In Adam's silence, in the way he avoided my eyes, in the way my husband remained oblivious, still scrolling, still distant, still unaware that the emotional gap he created had almost swallowed everything. Adam stopped coming over as much. Excuses about work, about being busy, about needing space, and I didn't chase him, didn't message him, didn't try to fix it, because some mistakes don't need resolution, they need distance, they need silence. They need to sit inside you like a lesson you carry instead of a story you repeat. My marriage didn't end, but something inside me did. The illusion that emotional neglect is harmless, the belief that loyalty only lives in actions and not in needs. I realized I hadn't fallen for Adam as a person. I had fallen for how I felt when someone finally looked at me like I mattered. And that's the part that still scares me. Not the kiss, not the guilt, but how easily it happened. How quietly, how naturally, like my heart had been waiting for permission to wake up for years. And if there's any truth in this story, any lesson buried under the shame and reflection, it's that people don't always cheat because they want something new. Sometimes they cheat because they want to feel like themselves again, because they're tired of being invisible in their own lives, because loneliness doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, and those whispers can lead you to places you swore you'd never go, not because you're evil, not because you're reckless, but because you're human, and humans crave to be seen, to be touched, to be chosen, even when they already belong to someone else.